All right, welcome back in. Big Sixers game tomorrow in South Philadelphia, Sixers and Toronto. Sixers look to get another victory on their resume up against a team that is over 500. Sixers in a nice little stretch of basketball in the month of January and really have turned around the direction of the franchise, and that's all because of one player, and that's the process in Joel Embiid, and the Sixers are still waiting for Ben Simmons to join and get back in on the action, and a lot of Sixer fans can't wait to see that. So now let's go out to the phone lines and welcome in someone who does a great job covering the Sixers for the Bucks County Courier-Times, and that's Tom Moore, who joins us right now. Tom, Zach Gelb, appreciate the time, and how are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you, Zach?
Well, I'm doing great, and Tom, I was actually been thinking about you in this month of January, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, because for the last few years, although you get the paycheck still, you have to watch a lot of bad basketball, and now you have something finally good to watch. So what has it been like watching this team in the month of January, because it's been a special one?
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see, maybe what the future could hold, and you're starting to, they're starting to get some results and, winning some games, close games late, which they didn't do early in the season, and, beating some 500 teams, which they hadn't really done earlier in the season. So, I think Ilyasova and, these guys have been here for half a season now. He came in November 1st, and I think it's just sort of taken some time, and clearly, the development and the rapid progress of Joel Embiid certainly hasn't hurt things.
With Embiid, the thing that actually has impressed me the most, and there's a lot with his off-the-court presence and his play on the court, but really that quote that he gave a few weeks ago saying, hey, the mentality is to be in the playoffs. At first, I laughed at that, and I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs, so they're only 6.5 back of the 8th seed. But I just like that mentality, and Tom, as you know, that's a mentality we haven't seen with the Sixers in a long time. So for him to say that where he's at in his career, I like the big picture thinking.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly want to be looking ahead. You don't want to be, you kind of look what's in front of you as opposed to, well, we're only 2 games, the third worst team in the league is only 2 games behind me or, whatever. And, that's where they hope to get, and maybe even as soon as next season if all goes well and, add a key player in the draft, maybe sign a free agent or make a trade, get a shooter/guard in here, which could be 2 players, whatever, and then you could really start moving this thing forward. But yeah, it did sound kind of far-fetched, and it's still, he said it with a smile on his face, and you're kind of like, is this for real, or not? But certainly that's what you should do. Now he's going to miss, I think it's 4 the next 10 games. They're back-to-backs. So that's going to be a little more difficult, not having him both nights on Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those kinds of things. That's going to make it a little tougher there. I think they're 2-9 without him, if I'm not mistaken. So they beat Detroit and they beat Washington the first time. So, clearly there's they have a much better chance to win with him out there.
It's a great point that you brought up, because when he's not on the court, we all know that they're clearly a worse basketball team and they're not better off, but it's important still to manage his minutes because the health is the utmost importance. How close do you think this thing needs to get where they go away from that plan a little bit and play him a little bit more? There is a chance they can realistically get to the playoffs.
Yeah, Brett Brown was asked today at practice about the possibility of increasing the minutes from 28 this year, and he said, I don't think there is a possibility this year. So it sounds like unless something changes, they're pretty much locked into that 28 minutes, and I would guess that also means it's locked into not playing in back-to-back games. So I don't think they're going to change what they're doing or how they're approaching this, and not sort of overexerting him or doing too much to. It's not that he can't handle it conditioning wise. I guess it's just the wear and tear and so on. They feel like if they minimize it or keep it down, the difference between 28 and 36 minutes, let's say, night after night, I guess they think could be significant. So this is probably where you're going to be. And really 28 minutes is reasonable, really. I mean, I think that gives you 14 minutes a half out of the 24 minutes. And, right now Noel's the backup, and he handles pretty much all the rest of the minutes, the 20 minutes or whatever. Gives you a defensive presence. Okafor's a better offensive player, but clearly Noel, he's not Embiid at the defensive end, but he's certainly above average. So that's the direction it looks like, at least for now, that they're going in.
But with Embiid, every time you watch him play, you just keep on wanting more and more and more. He very rarely plays a bad game. Yesterday, he got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he put some exclamation points on the finish with the 5 blocks and then a few big dunks. Just how about his performance yesterday, Tom?
Yeah, well, and the other thing that maybe people haven't realized that much is he gets to the foul line a ton.
A lot.
I think he
18
took
times yesterday.
I think he took 18 free throws yesterday, and if I'm not mistaken, over the last, I think it's 8 games, he's averaging double-digit free throw attempts, and he's also shooting over 80%. So, you can really sort of rack up a lot of points that way, and they're double-teaming him and so on, and, teams getting the penalty, and he spent a lot of time in that second half, on the foul line. So, yeah, he did not kind of seem like himself early on in the game yesterday. Offensively, I don't know if he's just a little lethargic or tired, and he didn't play, in Washington on Saturday night. But then, defensively, and that's another thing I like, he doesn't let his offense, even when he was struggling offensively, he was a factor on defense. And in this league, a fair amount of time you'll see if guys aren't scoring, they kind of don't do anything, or it affects what they do at the other end. And he defends regardless of whether he's scoring or not. And I think that's a really good sign, especially for a young player who guys can get down and disappointed in themselves and so on. So I think being a rookie and being a guy, there's never been a guy who's missed his first 2 seasons who's had an impact, who's even really played in the NBA. That's never happened before, let alone a guy who is a borderline all-star and who's averaging almost twice the number of points that he did in the NBA that he did in his one college season. So, he really is remarkable and, kind of a new a trendsetter, totally unlike anything anybody's ever seen.
Tom Moore with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. With Embiid, you call him borderline for the All-Star game. I think he should be in the All-Star game, and I actually think he should be a starter. Do you think he'll be a starter for the All-Star game?
Well, the first results, they came out 2 weeks ago, and he was, I think, 34,000 votes behind Kevin Love. They don't, if they did it the old-fashioned way with 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center, I think he'd have a great chance. But the fact they do it 2 guards and 3 forwards, I think Love is the one that he has a chance to catch. He's not going to catch
Agreed.
LeBron or Antetokounmpo, I don't think either. But, Brett Brown said today, the next 5 the coaches pick. And, the Eastern Conference coaches have seen a lot of him. They've played most teams in the East already. And I think there's a decent chance of, a better than 50-50 chance that he would get voted in there. And then there's 2 more picks that the commissioner's office has a hand in. It's some sort of secret double probation thing where they decide or whatever. But, I think, and his charisma and all that stuff, I think he's kind of what that game needs, and he's what that game is all about with his, just a fun-loving kid.
Now imagine if it's the commissioner pick that gets him that date with whoever this anonymous girl is.
Yeah, really. That would be something, wouldn't it?
Any tips on who it is? We all know it's not Rihanna now.
Yeah, I really don't know. People are trying to ask other Sixers. No one's saying. I really don't know. I honestly don't know. There's so many different people that it could be, that are out there. I really don't know.
I think they may need to have a media availability before this date because there's a lot of questions that need to be answered about this thing. It would be the most awkward but funny media availability right before the guy would go on a date with this celebrity crush. Just get him back to the Kevin Love argument because I agree. He's not catching Giannis or LeBron James. We all know that. But if you look at the numbers, Love has 32 minutes, 20.7 points per game, 10.8 rebounds, 0.4 blocks, and Embiid in 25 minutes, you know the numbers, 19.7, 7.7, and 2.4 blocks. It's to me, I just think Embiid's having a better season than Kevin Love, no?
He probably is, but Zach, it's a big popularity contest,
yep.
And Love has been a perennial All-Star. He played on a championship team last year. It's difficult. The best players don't always get in. So, and sometimes it's almost more of a lifetime achievement where once you get in, you kind of keep getting voted. So, I think yes, he's certainly, put it this way, he's more important to the Sixers, no question, than Love is as a number 3 guy with the Cavaliers with Kyrie and LeBron. But that it doesn't always work out that way, and Major League Baseball is the same situation. You have guys that are hitting 320 with 15 homers and 60 RBIs at the All-Star break, and they're not voted a starter, and a guy who's hitting 220, who's been a perennial All-Star, who's a bigger name, is voted in on a New York or Boston or was it Chicago last year where everybody voted everybody, or Minnesota the other year. So that stuff does happen.
Tom, the next big question Sixers fans have, and you know where this one's going, the next step in this process is seeing Ben Simmons on the court. How far away do you think we are from seeing Ben Simmons?
Yeah, I'm going to say maybe a month or a little less, just guesstimating. I mean, as what we've been told is, he really hasn't played any one-on-one yet, let alone 2-on-2, 3-on-3, and so on. I've seen him before games kind of just passing the ball to guys in drills, or running drills, coming off screens. He hits them as they turn square and shoot. So I'm shooting around and dribbling a little bit of practice a few times in the last couple weeks. But their history is they don't rush guys back. I think he wants to play, and I think they want him to play, and I think they really need him to play, especially with potentially having 2 top 5 or top 7 picks in the draft, with the Lakers pick and the better of the Sixers and Kings pick. Because if he's going to be the point guard, you want to see, is he the guy that if he wants to have the ball in his hands all the time, maybe you'd be better off getting like a combo guard, a guy who can play off the ball, kind of a younger Jared Bayless, 6'4", can guard, 1s and 2s and shoot a little bit and so on, as opposed to a ball-dominant point guard. It may be that, from what I see, Simmons seems to like to having the ball in his hands. So if that's the case, and, if he comes back in early February or even mid-February, you have 2 months to see him. I assume he probably will be on a minutes restriction and, maybe something about back-to-back nights. But even if he only plays 2/3 of the games for the last 2 months, barring a setback, I think you'll have a pretty good idea of where he is and how he likes to play and, surrounding him with shooters and things like that.
With Simmons, I had Chris Broussard on Friday, and he said 3 things that would put a smile on every Sixer fan's face, and they hope that they do come to fruition. He said that he thinks Simmons is going to be a better passer than LeBron. He compared Simmons to Magic Johnson, which we heard that comparison before. And then the other one was he thinks that the passing ability of one Ben Simmons is going to attract other players to come join this thing in Philadelphia just because of the unselfishness that he possesses. When he comes back and plays, and you would have to think, and you never know with the way Embiid's doing it, that it's going to be tough for him to be a star right away. But what are your expectations for a player like Ben Simmons, not only for when he comes back, but for on his career?
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite thing about him is how he grabs a defensive rebound and goes, leads the break. If you're open, and also if you move and get open, he'll get you the ball. And guys love playing with players like that because they know if they get open, he'll find them. The way you stop guys from moving on offense is don't give them the ball, because the first 3 or 4 times they'll do it, and after a while you end up with 4 guys standing there and one guy going one-on-one or doing whatever. I think he's an elite passer. I think that is his best skill. I think it'll be interesting to see if he's the point guard on offense. It sounds like the plan is for Brett Brown's plan is whoever guards him on defense, he will defend against. So if that's a 3 on the other team, then he will defend against the 3. But that could be interesting in transition if you don't get matched up or there's a switch. You have to. It's tough to cross over and get somebody else. The other thing is, the shooting. He's going to need to at least take some mid-range shots to keep defenses honest, because they're going to, when they run the pick and roll, they're going to drop back off of him. He's going to have a lot of open 14, 15, 16, 17-foot jumpers. And if he can knock them down or at least take them enough to keep defenses honest, that's going to really help. But I think he's going to make Joel Embiid's life easier, and I think a guy like Ilyasova can really help him because he can shoot threes and he's very good at spacing. I think Ilyasova and Embiid have worked really well together. I think they have really good chemistry, even though Ilyasova has been a little bit of a shooting slump the last 3 games. I think the two of them complement each other well with a stretch 4. So if you can, put a shooting guard in there who can knock down some threes, now you have something.
Should be a fun one tomorrow night, a big test for the Sixers up against Toronto. Tom Moore covers the Sixers for a long time for the Bucks County Courier-Times. We appreciate it as always, Tom. Great stuff.
Okay, Zach. Take care. Thank you.